Hey everybody, this is Perch. We've got a tiny bit of news coming out of Death Metal and Future State and DC in March. So to calibrate everybody a little bit, DC in March is really what a lot of people should be looking for. The DC universe as it exists in March and beyond is the world that we're going to be stuck with or living with throughout 2021 and likely further. And it's being sensed and kind of set up as a movement of sorts to really align the comics to what Warner Media is trying to do, to what the bigger picture of DC is doing. Future State is not the future of the DC universe in the sense that it's not what all the comics are going to be converting to. It's really just a patch. It's a way to, basically get some stories that had already been written, get a bunch of concepts that had, in some cases, had already been created, and put them in play in January and February to buy time to get the creative teams and everything really aligned and ticking and working in harmony and concert, whatever you want to say, in March. So DC, as we look to kind of see what the future of DC is going to be, March is where we need to look at. Not December for Endless Winter, not January and February, but March. And Death Metal basically has two endings to it, or two kind of kickoff moments to it. One of which is the lead into Future State, basically the little bridge to go, here's why we're moving toward the future, here's a glimpse at what the future might hold and the kind of the crazy stories. And I would expect that piece to be a little bit less impactful. I would expect that to be something along the lines of, and in the future, anything could be possible. And they show a couple scenes of what we're going to see in Future State, and that's really the kind of the kickoff into that area. And I say that because enough tweets, enough information from DC indicates that Future State has been bounced around a lot from what was originally planned for 5G and Generations and this kind of limited series and everything else to, them wanting to recover some of the work that had already been done and some of the costs that had been made. And so it's really just kind of a temporary nod. But March is what we should be looking at. And we don't know much about March, but between now and kind of the end of November, expect to see a lot of things filtering out because at this point, those stories are being written and the art is being worked on and things are being produced. If you just take the timeline back to March, now is the time when a lot of those books are probably coming to their close from a writing and art standpoint. And so we're going to see things start to leak out. It's inevitable. So one of those things is really around Batman, and that's kind of the crux of the news we have here today. So we do know that James Tynion is continuing on Batman. We know that he has issue 106, which will pop in. We know that Jorge Jimenez is going to be doing the art for that issue 106, which should be in March. So there's already one thing that we know. We know that we're not getting a Batman #1. We're not getting an all new, all different Batman. In March, we are going to continue that numbering at 106. So that's one pretty interesting piece of information because there at least been a lot of speculation that they would reboot all the comics back down to #1, but that is not the case. But the other piece that we know is even though if you look at the Batman-based titles coming out for Future State, you do not see a lot from James Tynion, but what you do see is that, or what the news we have, is that many of the characters, many of the things he's going to be using when he returns to Batman 106 are concepts that are set up in Future State, which indicates that Tynion is doing far more architecting of what's going on in the Batman universe than maybe even people had believed. So what are these moments in Future State that really impact Tynion's run of Batman? Well, in particular, Future State's going to introduce us to this concept of the Magistrate and Peacekeeper 1. And the Future State world of Gotham is this very tight, controlled, I want to say government or police state type control over everything, the citizens and the hero or villain activity, that this magistrate is kind of the power. It's the Judge Dredd of Batman, if you will. And the magistrate is this big villain character, or at least government power character, that's going to be a source of conflict for Batman, the Luke Fox version of Batman, or whoever actually is in that cape, somebody from the Fox family. So what's unique to know, or what we did learn, is in March, the Magistrate and Peacekeeper 1, two characters that we'll see in Future State, are going to start appearing in the March books. But they will be in their present day version rather than the future that we'll see in Future State. Future State will be, for at least the Batman titles, looking like a tease into what's coming years down the road. And so we're going to see those concepts in their origin states when Tynion comes back to Batman 106. So what does all this tell us? Well, it tells us that in Batman, at least, the seeds for what the future is going to look like are going to be laid in future state that then are played out in the titles to come. We do know from what we've heard from what Tynion plans to catch up on, we're going to get a lot more with Punchline, kind of her imprisonment and how all that's going to go. We're going to get more of how Batman exists as a street level hero, more of the Fox family and how they intend to kind of control his fortune and how they're doing things. And so we're really kind of setting the stage for a darker, harsher Gotham. And I think here is where, if you look at the early previews and at least leaks from the Batman movie, it does look a lot like they're trying to align at least the feeling of what Gotham's going to be and what Batman's going to be. Less tech, less gadgets going on, and a lot more gritty street level behavior from Batman. And so it looks like the comics lining up there. Looks like what we're going to see throughout 2021 is this kind of Batman working at that level, basically introducing these characters and everything else. So hard to tell how close Future State is going to mirror or impact the books that come. The answer still seems not, by and large, but at least in Batman, the characters that are coming into Future State are going to be significant for the title to come. So that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of Batman and Future State and the world of DC in March. Again, I think the eyes of everything that's going on should be March. And, I'm not saying don't pay attention to Future State, just saying don't put too much weight behind what you're seeing with Future State. A lot of characters, a lot of concepts are going to be introduced there, but in many cases, this is a celebration of the potential future of DC Comics, may or may not have any actual impact. Are we going to get a shirtless World War Hulk style Superman off fighting on Warworld and Gladiator tournaments? Probably not. The lead in to what that would look like doesn't seem quite likely, but we will see. At least for the moment, if you like Tynion and you like what he's doing on Batman and you like these concepts, you like the idea of a Gotham kind of controlled by a police state, then this title seems like it's heading in a direction you'll be happy with. Anyway, any questions, any thoughts on any of this, leave a comment below. Are you interested in what's happening with Batman? Does this sound like a good tease to you? Does Future State Batman side of world seem of note? Keep in mind that Batman is the crown jewel of a lot of what Warner Media is doing with DC, so it's natural that they're going to spend a lot more attention there and make sure that that part of the world is nicely buttoned up and working like they expect. But like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Most importantly, though, thanks for listening.